I think mostly because I love Shazi, the main character, Shahrazad? I don't know. Her nickname is Shazi, and that's what I call her. She's just like a delicious villain, I felt. I think they're like soldiers or maybe commanders. I don't know. There's dudes where if it was like a fucking movie or TV show or something, I would probably be like, oh God. Well, hello. Welcome back to my channel. Just Shauna here to talk about some friggin' books. I have had this list of my top 10 young adult SFF/speculative books for months. I've been sitting on this for months because I managed to get 9 on the list. And for a while I was like, should I just do like my faves and like it's 9, that's fine. But I just kept being like, dude, I can think of one. I can think of one more, can't I? And I really couldn't. So I've kind of fudged it a little bit. The 10th one that I added to this list, it's not like number 10 necessarily, but there's one I added that it's like speculative. It's not fantasy, it's not sci-fi, but it is like historical fiction. And I was like Googling, like, does that count? And some people say yes, that like any kind of historical fiction technically is under the larger umbrella of like speculative. I think some people disagree. I'm going with I agree. So there are 10 books on this list now. And I have actually put them in order. It's maybe kind of a loose order. If push comes to shove, if I went and looked at every like detail category to rate them on, maybe the order of the list would be slightly different, but this is what we're going with for now. Number 1 would still be number 1 no matter what, and I mean, take your guesses right now. Maybe put it in the comments if you feel like writing down what your guess is. Probably anyone who watches any of my videos is not going to be surprised and is definitely going to be able to guess it if you think about it for like 2 seconds. So I'm curious how many people will get it right though. But let's just get to it. Number 10 is one that I don't have. And again, the order, maybe it would be different. I'm counting this one as number 10 simply for the fact that I don't own a copy of it. And it's one that like, I think I would reread, but that's why I've never bought a copy of it because I don't know for sure if I would. But I did really, really like it when I first read it, and I read it from the library, I think. And that is Black Girl Unlimited by Echo Brown. And this one was a little surprising that I did enjoy it so much because the premise sounded interesting and everything, but it's very much like fabulism/magical realism. It's very loosey-goosey, fantastical elements. I'll read the blurb for it to kind of give you an idea. Heavily autobiographical and infused with magical realism, Black Girl Unlimited fearlessly explores the intersections of poverty, sexual violence, depression, racism, and sexism, all through the arc of a transcendent coming-of-age story for fans of Renee Watson's Piecing Me Together and E.B. Zeboy's American Street. So our main character, Echo, is a wizard, and it's like portals and things, and it's a long time ago since I read it, so I'm just trying to remember like the details of how it all works. But it's basically kind of a conversation about like escapism from this terrible childhood that this girl has. And there's this thing called like the black veil that like can come over people, and that is the depression coming about, and it's manifested in like a very real way. Like she can see it on other people because she's a wizard. So it's really, really, really cool, very well done, and obviously, you know, dealing with dark themes and real life shit and very serious things, so definitely content warnings. But I just thought it was so well done, and especially me being the type of reader who typically just does not vibe with straight up magical realism, I went into the book having heard that and kind of wondering like, I don't know, this might be one I DNF, and I really, really liked it. I gave it 4.5, definitely recommend. It sticks with me in my brain as one that I loved, but again, it's not one that I felt inclined to want to reread necessarily, but I definitely would recommend it. Number 9 is another one I have not reread, but it is one I kept my copy of because I definitely could see myself rereading. The Dark Descent of Elizabeth Frankenstein by Kiersten White. I have picked up some other Kiersten White after this, and it's very hit or miss for me, and she seems to be going into much more like just straight up horror territory of recent. I don't know if her more recent works that have been published are young adult or if they're adult, but I know there's been a couple of like horror ones. I don't know how horror they are. This one is a little bit horror, and it was another one that I was like, I don't know, we'll see. And there's some scenes that were genuinely like kind of creepy to me. Creepier than some other like adult horror that I've read that's like kind of creepy but like not real scary. This one had a couple scenes that were like a little scary, but I just really ate it up. I don't even remember what I rated it. This one I gave 4 stars, so I didn't even give it like 5 stars, but that's why it's a little lower on the list. I remembered that like I liked it, and I really liked it, but it wasn't one that was like scream from the rooftops necessarily. But I don't know, the pacing, the plot. Another one where I think it kind of is in my brain as a favorite, more so because of how surprising it was that I enjoyed it as much as I did. And this is a reimagining of like the tale of Frankenstein told about Elizabeth Frankenstein from her perspective. So, and number 8 is Elatsoe by Darcy Little Badger. This one is contemporary fantasy, and we have our main character who is a Lipan Apache, and it's just really cool. She can see ghosts. I think, is it just of animals or is it of anyone? Yeah, there's magic and like monsters and stuff. Yeah. Animals, yep. She can raise the ghosts of dead animals, a skill passed down through generations. And then her cousin is murdered, and she goes into detective mode. And I gave this one 4.5, another one that was higher rating for me, especially young adult, more contemporary. I was surprised that I liked it as much as I did. I really liked the main character. There's asexual representation. And then I just loved the family. Like, a lot of young adult you read, the parents are just, they're either like terrible, just the worst parents ever, and like horribly neglectful, or just like bigoted, or like abusive. And then other times they're just like there. Like, yeah, they have parents, but like they're not that involved. And I just really liked how like she told her parents like she's trying to like go figure this out, and her parents were like, well, not without us, you're not. Like, okay, if you're bound and determined to like go do something about this and like try to solve this mystery, we're gonna do it as a family. And like they did, and they helped her, and you know, they were basically there being cautious and keeping her cautious, and like not letting herself get herself into too much trouble. And then I just loved what the author did with like the vampire thing in particular. I don't want to give any spoilers for anything, but how they weaved in like vampire lore with like indigenous culture and like mythology and just indigenous culture was really cool to me. Like when I came across that like thing in the book, I was just like, oh my God, that's so fucking cool. I really liked it. And next up we have, for number 7, T.J. Young and the Arishas series, the first book being The Gatekeeper's Staff by Antoine Bondelay. And I really like the second book too. This one I definitely prefer so far. I'm gonna continue with the series. And this first book feels a little like middle grade, like older middle grade, young adult, kind of like a Percy Jackson-esque thing. And definitely recommend if you're someone or you know a kid who likes Percy Jackson or Harry Potter, stuff like that with like mythology or magic infused in it, and kids going off. In this one, they're going to a camp, a summer camp for magical kids. And in this world, it's our world, and every kind of like how Harry Potter, maybe Percy Jackson too, I'm not sure. I only read like the first 2 books of that, I think. But, and the movies or whatever. I don't even know how many movies they made, but I think I only watched the first one, if they made any more. At any rate, like in Harry Potter, like the different countries have like their own like wizarding school. And in this one, there are schools and different camps and things. And in this first book, we're in the United States, and they go to the summer camp. And just all of this really cool African mythology and lore, and the magic is very much infused with African mythology. And as the series goes on, there's novellas and there's going to be other books that incorporate other mythologies from like other cultures as well. And I just thought it was so fun. I really liked the little friendship dynamic we have here. It's a little group of friends, and I just really enjoyed that. All the cultural stuff, how it's all woven in to this magic and this world. I had a lot of fun with it. I gave this 5 stars. The second book I didn't give 5 stars. There was a little pacing stuff kind of for me, but I still really, really enjoyed it, and I definitely recommend. I think this series is pretty underhyped in the like middle grade and young adult world. And number what? Okay, that was 10. Number 6, The Bells by Danielle Clayton. And honestly, kind of mostly, the whole series I enjoyed, but this first book is definitely my favorite. The second book, the middle book, is my least favorite. Definitely had middle book syndrome. I enjoyed the ending, the final book. I liked the ending of it and everything. But this first book, man, I gave it 4.25. So again, not like 5 screaming from the rooftops, but just super cool. If you like a really interesting, lush, beautiful, like fantasy world, like this cover is just like perfection to like just, I guess, give you the vibes of the book. It's this world that is just so hyper-focused on beauty. And there are these girls called the Bells who are born and raised to basically modify people's looks with magic. In this world, everyone is born like gray skinned with like straw, like just bad hair, like literally like straw hair, and like red eyes and stuff. And these bells can, with magic, change how people look. You can literally change your whole face like week to week if you want. So like beauty trends and things like that, like people go to these tea houses to get their looks changed, and like the richer you are, the more you can keep up with it and the more desirable you are and everything. There's like teacup animals, like teacup tigers and teacup elephants and just the cutest things, just all these wonderful colors and delicious foods and beautiful everything. And it is the like one of the darkest, like grimiest worlds actually, like under the surface. And I just loved that like juxtaposition. I loved how that was done. There is a villain in here, a princess, who is just that really good kind of villain that isn't overtly necessarily like, you know, wringing their hands and like mustache twirling like I'm the bad guy. It's like this little fun princess, but it's like that perfect like Regina George mean girl thing, but like in this crazy ass world where body modification and like there's like torture that happens because she's wanting to like experiment on people and experiment with different things, and she's just like a delicious villain. I felt. So yeah, I really, really enjoyed this. And again, young adult fantasy that I think is underhyped. Again, the series as a whole isn't like my favorite. I didn't keep books 2 and 3, but I did like this one enough. And the writing and everything I enjoyed, where I was like, I could see myself rereading this first one when I just kind of want like a little flavor of that, you know? The Wrath and the Dawn duology by Renee Ahdieh. I have read this duology twice now, and it's a reimagining of 1001 Nights. And this main character, I've seen reviews. I might have done a like reading, you know, negative reviews of faves of this one. I've at the very least at some point seen negative reviews of this book and series, and a lot of people do not like the main character, and so many people don't like the love story in general, like, cause it's not great. The setup, there's reasons behind it, but like our main character, what she knows when she falls for the guy, the information she has, it's kind of like, girl, yeah, he isn't actually as bad as he seems, like in his heart of hearts. The stuff he's done still is bad as it seems, but like in his heart of hearts, his like motivation for doing it, there is kind of like justification, whether you think it's valid justification or not, is definitely, and it's a fictional world, whatever. But yeah, like the information she has when she starts falling for him, I can understand why some people are like, bitch, why would you fall for him when you think this about him? Like, what? But all that to say, I don't give a fuck. I love this love story. I think mostly because I love Shazi, the main character, Shahrazad? I don't know. Her nickname is Shazi, and that's what I call her. I love her. Oh my God. I think she's so fun, and she's such a little spitfire, and I just enjoy her. I don't know. And I enjoyed the story. I gave this one 4.5, and upon reread, it holds up. So I think I might have given it a slightly lower rating when I reread it. Did I? Yeah, it was previously 5 stars. And so I did, when I reread it, I did bring it down to 4.5, but I still just really, it's still a fave. I have 2 copies. I have the hardcover and the paperback. I really, really like it. Number 4, The Demon King by Cinda Williams Chima. And this whole series, really, the 7 Realms series, it's a quartet. There's 4 books, and I fucking love it. Oh my God. This one I read before even getting on BookTube, and I have seen people talk about it on BookTube. I think I read the whole series before joining BookTube, and I have seen some people talk about it, but I still think it's underhyped. I think a lot of people maybe either don't vibe with it, like the whole series, or don't want to pick it up because it is known for being kind of just standard fare fantasy stuff. But I don't know, I just think it's really well done. Sometimes you just want that, you know? I don't think it's, like, I don't like when it kind of comes across like people are saying, like, it's too basic and, like, boring, because I don't think it is. I've read stuff with, like, more complex or, like, unique concepts or more unique worlds or whatever, you know, super unique creatures and races of creatures or mythological beings or whatever that are, like, less standard fantasy that I don't think are as, like, fun and good as this one. I just really like the characters, the arc throughout the whole series. I really enjoyed of all the character arcs and the plot arc. I just ate it up. I don't know. I really, really have a fun time with this series. Number 3, this maybe doesn't make sense seeing as how the last book was rated higher than this one is. Maybe it's just because this is more like fresh in my mind, but that would be The Diviners by Libba Bray. And I think also because I gave this 4.5, by the way, and I haven't finished the series yet. It's a quartet as well. I need to read the 3rd book, or I'm sorry, I need to read the 4th book. And this one I gave 4.5. The second one I gave 4.5. The 3rd one I gave 3.5, so we'll see with the 4th one. But yeah, I really, really enjoyed these first 2 books a lot. And I was, again, very surprised. This has been a series that has been on my radar since joining BookTube and probably before then. But I just always heard like how kind of creepy it was. And I'm just not one for super creepy stuff. And to be fair, it is creepy. Very, very creepy. The first 2 books especially were like, actually the 3rd one too, they have like some truly like horror scenes where if it was like a fucking movie or TV show or something, I would probably be like, oh God, oh fuck, like I'd be very stressed and like kind of not wanting to look at the screen too much. But I just loved the characters and the plot, and I don't know, I just got really, really swept up in it. It's this 1920s or 30s, I think 1920s, yeah. Like New York, Manhattan, speakeasies, flappers, all of this historical stuff, but people who are diviners who can see ghosts or like see the future or different things, different abilities that they have, different paranormal abilities. And yeah, I really like the cast of characters. Top notch. Very pleasantly surprised when I picked this up. Number 2 is one that I need to reread. I want to reread it this year because I only have read this series once, and it was in 2017. But like, it's just in my memory as a favorite of all time, and I want to see if it holds up. The finale of it, I quite enjoyed. I think I remember there being some stuff about the finale that I didn't love, but like I thought it was good at least. It didn't like ruin it or anything. And this is the one that like technically it's not fantasy. It's not science fiction. People I think it is just because it gets talked about a lot. And the cover, the hardcover covers look very fantasy-esque, and that is I Darken. I had the paperback here by Kirsten White. But yeah, like this looks like a fantasy, a young adult fantasy. I mean, come on. but it is not. It's historical fiction, and it is Vlad the Impaler if it was a girl, his daughter. Instead of being him, it's his daughter Lada, and her conquering and fighting the Ottomans and all this stuff. But yeah, when I read this, oh my god, the way I love Lada Dracul, I cannot tell you. My tattoo, part of the reason that I wanted a dragon and that I wanted the quote, it's in High Valyrian from Game of Thrones, but it says, "I am the dragon." That's the final line of this book. It says, "I am no longer the or what does it say? Not Draguila," she said, "Lada Dracul. I am no longer the daughter of the dragon." That's what he was known as, the dragon. She lifted her chin, sights set on the horizon. "I am the dragon." Like, and she's a ruthless bitch. Like, when people talk about, like, female main characters who are, like, mean, like, warrior badasses, right? Usually they're, like, nice still. You know, it's like the Selenas, like, characters like that are, like, sassy and have a bunch of attitude and know how to fight. But, like, ultimately they're, like, so, like, they're not gonna go just, like, they're not ruthless, typically. Like, they're just not. They're just usually not ruthless. They have mercy and all these things, which is great. I like those types of characters too. I like Selena as an example. But Lada is a ruthless bitch. Like, there's a scene where someone is like, I don't even remember the exact, like, context, but it's like a council or something. There's a group of people, these men. I think they're like soldiers or maybe commanders. I don't know. There's fucking dudes, and they're all talking, and she's like this young girl, and I don't remember what happens, but someone says something she doesn't like. She fucking stabs the guy through the heart without hesitation. Like, there's not this long, big, like, you know, talk and, like, hemming and hawing and, like, can I do it? I think I need to do it. She's just like, fuck you, bitch. And fucking stabs the guy. Shit like that. And I just love her. I don't know. In this series, like, we talk about, like, her menstruation. Like, she's out, like, going to war and out in, like, war camps and sleeping in tents and shit. And we deal with her dealing with that. Like, we see her dealing with that. Like, god dang it. And, like, trying to be, like, this badass, ruthless leader of this fucking whole army while being a woman, a young woman who has her period and, like, you know, wanting to make sure she is perceived how she wants to be perceived all the time, as, like, strong and ruthless and not to be fucked with and not to be underestimated. And then we have her brother, oh my god, Radu, who is just, like, the definition of a sweet fucking cinnamon roll. And we have homosexual representation here. And, like, Radu is my sweet baby. And I love him. Like, Lada I love, but, like, she's not a good fucking person. Like, I wouldn't want to be her fucking friend. She does a bunch of fucked up shit. Sometimes where it's like, ha, that's funny because that guy sucks. But other times you're like, ooh, fuck, girl. Like, that's someone you, like, care about, and why are you treating them that way? You know what I mean? She's unlikable a lot of the time, but I still like her. Radu is very likable. Oh my god. I love it. I need to reread this. I need to reread it. And I think this is one that, because, like, I'm not typically a character-driven reader. Like, I mean, that's the dream, to like the plot and the characters. But, like, I don't have to love characters to love a book. But, like, I do have to love the plot. If I love characters, but the plot, like, sucks, like, I might still be like, oh, the book was good enough, but, like, I'm not going to give it 5 stars usually. So just when I come across a book that I love a lot, mostly because of the characters, like, the plot still is cool too, but, like, I love these characters so much, like, I'm, like, scared upon reread that I'm going to not love them as much or something. So I'm nervous to reread it, but I do want to. And number 1, if you didn't guess it in the beginning, before I even started, again, if you're someone who has watched, like, I don't know, even 2 of my videos probably, especially recently, I've talked about this, you will be very unsurprised at my number 1 pick for young adult SFF, The Hunger Games, dystopian, just, I love it. I love it so much. Like, I just love it. I've reread it several times. It holds up every single fucking time. I love the whole series. I love how it ends. I think it's so great. I love the movies as well, but the books are better, in my opinion. They're very different. This is a case where the books are from our main character's POV. We are in her head. So, like, the movies are very well done, and it's very good book-to-movie adaptations. But there is a lot you don't, like, understand just watching the movies. Like, I see people do, like, reactions to the Hunger Games movies, and, like, they don't understand certain things about Katniss because, like, we don't get the same perspective, obviously. So I still definitely prefer the books as far as the way in which the story is told. Like, I would always revert to this for my preference, but the movies are good. But anyways, just forever a fave. Just, it's so good. It's so good. I still, every time I fucking read it and watch the movies, but reading the fucking if we burn, you burn with us gets me emotional, gets me hyped. Like, every time, like, literally I cry every time I read it. I know it's coming and I start getting excited, like, oh yeah, I know exactly word for word, like, what that whole, like, kind of speech is, and I still just get like, fuck yeah, like, it's so good, it's so good. Anyway, Hunger Games, forever my #1 fave. Like I said, some of the other ones probably I could, like, move around on the order of the list, but, like, that's #1, obviously. And there we go, my top 10 current, and probably for a long time. I don't really read young adult all that much anymore, contemporary or even fantasy. I pick it up here and there, so at some point maybe there's one that'll pop in as a new fave, but probably that's probably a solid list for a good long while. Let me know if you have read any of these and you agree and they're some of your faves, or maybe some that you're like, I read that and I hate it. What are you talking about, Joshana? It's always fun to see as well. As always, thank you so much for your time. Hope you all have a wonderful day, and I will talk to you later. Bye-bye.